body has a proper nourishment, the proper condition where we're not being hit with all sorts of poisonous chemicals which affect our digestive system, affect our microbiome, we're not being hit with poisonous air or poisonous water, and we make the right choices to eat, high quality vegetables, our thyroid is working right, we have proper hydrochloric acid, you know what? Your body's an amazing being. It knows how to take care of itself. And that's how we get immune health. But these politicians, the CDC and the NIH, they're not talking about any of this. Shame on them. It's criminal. So let's talk a little more about this so we can get back to basic science here. Now, these
control keep you ignorant.
My pop wants to make a comment or two.
No,
oh, good. Hey, Gene.
Hey, how you doing? I was saying it's all based on total command and control by those in charge in the government. If they can keep you ignorant, stupid, and dumbfounded about the reality of how to keep good health in your system, if they can destroy that concept and get you thinking in a different direction, then they win and we lose. So the man that's speaking here is right dead on target in my view. I just think that people totally forget the basics of what life is about, and life is having things that are live. All vegetation, live data creates live cell tissue continuing in the human body. If you eat 80% of raw vegetation that's consumable and digestible and full of nutrients, you win. And about 20% of semi-steamed or cooked vegetables, it balances off. So that's something that I learned many years ago, and I'm not. And
let me interject on that, Pop, because I remember when you were into that. But back in the day, Brian, when you and I were working at the health food store together, my dad, I remember the book he used to read. What was the name of that guy?
Raw Fruits and Vegetables.
Walker, the guy that was like 100 years old.
Yeah. He was about.
What was the name of that book again?
The only reason he died.
Paul Bragg was one, and
but there
Walker,
was Walker. My dad was into that book
Walker,
at the time.
Walker was his last
So
name.
certainly there was a time when my dad was, more health conscious. Look, everybody falters. My dad doesn't necessarily have the perfect, diet right now. Nobody does. I endeavor to do the best I can. When my dad was younger, he went through the phase. Everybody goes through their phases, right? Trying to health, fitness, trying to eat right, trying to do the right thing. But yet, this goes to the point of this man. Not only do people fall off the wagon, but these bastard, criminal, corrupt son of a bitches that are running the country are in bed with the big corporations, and the big corporations want to sell you shit at your expense for their gain. So all the crap foods and all the processed shit, that's because there's corporations that own that, and they make trillions of dollars selling crap food to people. So it's all connected. The whole corrupt system. It's not just the pharmacy. In other words, it's like the whole system is about, and this is what the politicians that he's talking about that are corrupt are supporting. It's about a system that's all about big corporations that are going to sell all kinds of products in this capitalist society we live in that are bad for you and bad for your health. And by the way, while we're at it, let's make sure we get you sick so that you now have to get into our medical industry, which has abandoned the Hippocratic Oath in the place of profits. So now it's like, let's get rich making them sick and ill so that we can get them into our hospitals so that now they have to pay us more money to be treated. And by the way, we're not going to make you better. We're just going to treat your illness. And then by the way, we're going to give you drugs and things that are going to have side effects and give you other problems and make you sicker. And then, by the way, we're going to tell you that you have to get vaccines and we're going to force stuff into your body. Time to rise, baby, with a freaking... All right, I'm going to calm down because, this is where...
Was that Mike or Gene?
That was Mike, because you'd think at this point, just based off what we're saying on this much so far, that there'd be at least 1 million true, righteous, decent, intelligent Americans that would rise and drag every one of the bastards out of the White House and hang them all for what they've done to humanity. They're criminals, like this doctor just said. They're criminals. Let's carry on.
All right.
Functional immune response is a result of underlying pre-existing conditions. Okay, what are we talking about? Well, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, smoking, people being immunocompromised, eating tons and tons of sugar in the diet when we should not be doing that. Okay, and we'll talk about that. So we're talking really here is the body in its natural state has all these components. They work together to give you a strong immune system. Now, that means you must take some personal responsibility for what you put in and around your body, and you must also make the right choice for your future of who you're electing into government. This is a political question. What are you electing? Lawyer lobbyists who know nothing about health? Are you electing the same old GOP establishment people, the Democratic people are all in collusion, by the way. They don't give a damn about you. These people also were so afraid when Donald Trump ran. Forget whether you like him or not. Let's be clear, he upset their apple cart and he disrupted them. That's why I voted for him. I never voted for any politician, but he was exposing their corruption. And the expose of their corruption is what bothers them. The expose of their corruption is why that ugly individual, Bill Maher, a quote-unquote comedian, said that it is time we crash the economy and bring this to a recession to get rid of Donald Trump. I'm not going to fully go there, but I want to make you aware that we have a lot of evil, unfortunately, disgusting people who think they know better than you and me, and they actually want to destroy this economy. And they've said it openly. This is not conspiracy. And they do not care about the working people of this country who work with their hands and their minds, who innovate and create. What they care about is themselves and their power, profit, and control. They do not care about your health.
Now, on that note, this is a pet peeve of mine, so let me just add. He's talking about health, and he's generally talking about the physical health, but he just said mind also. And as you know, one of my pet peeves, Brian, I frequently will post on Facebook that the media, and then because when we think media, a lot of times people just think media, they're thinking of news broadcasts. They're thinking of news stations, the media, right? Generally. But I always clarify, say the media, meaning, because what is media? Basically, we're talking, audio visual, right? Any audio visual device for media. So I'll clarify that the media, meaning Hollywood, I always call out Hollywood first because they're the ones that are pumping out movies that everybody goes and watches. And if you think about Hollywood, so I clarify, say the media meaning Hollywood, television producers, cartoons, music videos, video games, even the video games that they produce, all of that, the entire media, the news, advertisements, all of the media is constantly spewing out immorality, perversion, indecency, filth, violence, inhumane, ungodly content, and they're spewing it out in every way possible into the minds of our children, who are young and developing and impressionable. They have impressionable minds. They're malleable. They're easily influenced. And we're allowing the media to not only is this corrupt system destroying people with the kind of foods they're putting out for people to eat, but with the stuff they're putting into their minds. Children now watching cartoons with little sick innuendos in them and adult innuendos in them and sexual innuendos in them. And there's been plenty of people that have exposed Disney for all the sexual subliminal stuff that they put in their cartoons. Where if you look at the dress of Minnie Mouse, if you look at just the dress alone, it's the exact shape of a penis, and Mickey Mouse has his arms on it. Like he's hugging a penis, but he's really hugging Minnie Mouse. It's just, there's all kinds of crap. And when you look at the constant violence, and the big one of mine that I just say it like it is, the nigger music, and I always say it's pathetic how people take that word nigger and turn it into some politically correct term. Because I've made videos before saying, man, I know black people that the term nigger, there's not even an association. There's no correlation whatsoever with that word with these black people that I know. There's no association. So what does that mean, nigger? What's the word nigger? No, The only definition that should exist for that word is the second definition on dictionary.com that says a person of any race or color who's viewed as ignorant and detestable and disdainable. So when you see a black person, which I always say again, Hollywood has exploited the Negro race. They've exploited blacks by taking blacks and putting tattoos all over their body and gold teeth in their mouth and a gun in one hand and drugs in the other hand, surrounded by a bunch of white naked women, and they're singing lyrics like some funky beat. I'm a nigga motherfucker, I fuck white ass, I killed them cops, and I smoked that grass. I mean, those are literally the lyrics. I mean, that's pathetic. And I'm just giving one example. Anybody can go to YouTube or anywhere else and find all kinds of hip-hop trash crap that's out there. And that's the music our children are listening to? That's the music our politicians are allowing our children to listen to? So there's much more to it than just what we put in our bodies. There's what we put in our minds, which again, the video from Tom Barnett, which is another great video, the guy from down in Australia, he said it well at the outset of his video. He said people put a lot of shit in their mind and a lot of shit in their bodies. And that goes into everything he's talking about here, the health and well-being and wellness of a person. So, I'll tell you, Dr. Shiva, if you ever watch this analysis of your video that Brian and I are doing, you should, keep that on top of your game too, the mental awareness. And you talked about how, bad food in your stomach can affect your mind and your brain. We'll also talk about the stuff that goes into your mind and into your brain through your eyeballs, not just through your mouth, but through your ears and through your eyeballs. The kinds of crap that they literally glorify and promote violence. Look at all the white people around the United States now that are decked out in tattoos. They never did that. And they're talking like, hey nigga, hey my nigga, what's down nigga? And talking like that, and they're white. What kind of crap is that? Tell me they haven't adversely influenced the mind of, not only has Hollywood exploited blacks, but it's like they're trying to diminish whites in their own skin. It's pathetic. All right, let's continue. Anything you want to say on that, Brian?
Yeah, it might be too much to get into, but since we don't want government to control us, how do we make those changes for the average Joe?
That's a very good question. And what I always say, the short answer is, because people will cry foul over the First Amendment, right? Oh, what do you want? Censorship? What are you talking about, man? That's freedom of speech. That's the First Amendment, freedom of speech. So my first statement is, come here, Pop, because you can chime in on this one and see if you got an answer. But what I always say, because people will try, I think this one actually even stumps my dad, because he'll be, there's the First Amendment, First Amendment rights. So the first thing I say is, with freedom, because when we're talking about the First Amendment, we're talking about freedom, right? So with freedom comes responsibility, right? With freedom comes responsibility. So we're essentially allowing all of these sources I referenced to be highly irresponsible, right? So now you're right, this can get deep. We might have to make a whole video on this about how to address it, because the question, people will say, well, okay, let's say we're going to go back to censoring, like they did censor television in the 60s, right? When we were watching I Dream of Jeannie and, Gilligan's Island, right? And shows that weren't so freaking extreme with violence and sexuality and nudity, right? But they did it then. They censored television then. There was a censorship. There was a form of censorship. Things had to be rated. So go back to that, if nothing else, But then people argue, oh, well, First Amendment. No, because we got to go back to freedom. With freedom comes responsibility. But then people will be like, well, who determines what's responsible? Who determines what level of morals is acceptable? Who determines what level of right is right? And that's a problem we have, because anybody that's, let's say, too far to the left, right, who doesn't give a shit and they don't give a damn, there is no limit. It could be anything for them. And then if you go too far to the right, you're right. You could have people, if we go all the way to the right, you got burqas. Women should be covered from head to toe, right? You shouldn't show any portion of their body, right? Let alone, a two-piece bikini on television, which was taboo in the 60s, right? So, what is the ultimate answer? Here's where the ultimate answer comes. Jesus Christ said, "Suffer not the little children to come unto me." And I forgot exactly how the verse goes. It's been many years, but the children are the kingdom of heaven. Jesus Christ referenced the children as being the kingdom of heaven. You know, so what do? We let the children be the basis of what is acceptable socially in the public domain. So therefore, nobody can argue, because we're not taking your rights away from you. You can go in your household. Maybe we need to have big, centers the size of Walmart that are adult centers. You can go in and anything and everything goes. That way you have all your rights, prostitution, drugs, drinking, anything you want. And if you had things like that, probably less and less and less people would be going in those places over time. And then the few that did would eventually just destroy themselves with drugs and pornography and disease and everything else. So that would be their choice. But now freedom hasn't been taken away from people. But it's one way is to say, let's let the children, and again, I get pissed off when I think of Whitney Houston. I did a video on this once before where I kind of mimicked, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. And I get pissed off and I say, you hypocritical bitch. You died of an overdose, You what kind of example were you? Here she's singing, I believe the children are our future. She's singing a song just because she's got a great voice, right? Whitney Houston, but she wasn't exactly a damn good example. And what kind of social and political activities was she really pushing for the benefit of children? None, right? So stuff like that offends me. But do people need to step up to the helm and address these issues? Yes. And if anybody gets upset because they're going to say, look, the answer lies with three things. Number one, with freedom comes responsibility. Number two, we do have children that are young and impressionable and growing and developing, and we need to protect them. So number three, we're going to let the children, what any normal person would consider to be acceptable for children, be the standard for what is publicly acceptable in the public domain, on billboards, on public television. Anything other than that, you can still have access to it, but you got to pay for it, and you got to provide your identification and everything else. Like pornography, right? Some adult can go check out a porn site. Do they want their little 6-year-old going and checking out a porn site? There's kids now that are looking at bestiality. Women having sex with dogs and horses because it's on their cell phone. They can see it. It's easily accessible. So there does need to be, that would be responsible politicians that are looking into these issues and doing something about it. Shall we move on?
One thing.
Wait, my dad wants to say something. Go ahead, Dad.
Okay.
In general, humanity has forgotten the basic concepts of right and wrong, and it's all premised on the fact that we do have a thing called the 10 Commandments. If humanity would adhere and prescribe to God's laws of the 10 Commandments, and we all taught those to our children faithfully, and we all adhered to that policy in life, a lot of problems would go away immediately. But when you intertwine government policies with theology from the very basic premise that God put in place on human behavior, it would nullify all the nasty stuff that's going on. The laws of the land can incorporate laws that would actually eliminate any nasty stuff that you all have been just discussing that exists in humanity. You essentially, it's all done for personal profit for certain individuals. So if you can eliminate that by simply getting people to understand, if they adhere to God's laws to start with, they're not going to purchase or buy or take part in any of that other stuff. All of a sudden their profits go away, their programs and nasty stuff goes away, and it's all relative to doing the right thing first. If you do everything the right way, which God taught us over 2,000 years ago, so it's a simple elimination of modern daily life and be reverting back to the basic premise by which God founded. If we do that, we win, and evil loses.
Right. So my dad's inserting, the Christian approach, the religious approach, or however one might want to say it. We could get into it. That could get deep too, Dad, because we could talk about, let's say you're right, but there's always going to be people that have different views, right, even on spirituality and religion and stuff like that.
Well, I have to interject a thought here, because It's not about theology and religious variables and different religion concepts. It's about the basic 10 commandments. If we just prescribe to those alone, if that's all you adhered to, and your philosophy in life was based on that premise,
That's a good point.
you would not have any problems, would be minimized beyond belief.
Actually, my dad just made a profound point that made a bell go off on my head. That's what they could do. The government could simply say, the 10 Commandments are going to be the basis for what's in public domain.
The government doesn't have to do it. People have to realize they got, again, a choice to
Well,
make.
but let me interject there, because there is the issue of we have a quote-unquote government of the people, by the people, for the people. So we can't say the government doesn't have to do it. There's always going to be irresponsible people that aren't going to do it, Dad. So you do have to have a government that's going to implement it.
No, it's implemented by the basic theory of what Jesus Christ taught humanity 2,000 years ago.
To those that accept that, but to the others, they won't.
Well, if they don't, they're going to lose in the interim anyways. They're not going to have a
In the interim?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to lose in the interim. In the end, you meant to say. You're saying they're going to lose in the end. But in the interim is the here and now, and that's what we're concerned about. This brings up
going to lose.
Right, but this brings up a point that Brian and I also talk about, which again could be another video. But I always say part of the problem that I have with Christianity in general is three ideas. Now, let me clarify. I will always stand on the same side of the fence with Christians, because overall, those are human beings who do preference and prefer and favor God and godliness and what's good and what's right. And even if they have their own problems, if they're a sex addict, if they're a drug addict, they don't want to be that. They want to be better. So Christians and God-fearing people aren't necessarily perfect, but they want to be perfect. They favor God. They favor what's right. So I will always stand on their side of the fence. That's a given. But having said that, the problem I have with Christianity in general, and a lot of Christians in general, is these three words right here that are biblical Christian-based ideas. Number one, and Brian and I were talking about this the other day. Number one, this is the devil's world. This is the devil's world. God gave this world over to the devil. This is the devil's world. Number two, Jesus Christ is coming back. Jesus is coming. I'm waiting on the Lord. I'm waiting on the Lord. Jesus is coming back to take me out of this world. And number three, lay not your treasures on this earth, brother, but put them in heaven. No incentive to have any wealth or any success or any business here. No, I'm looking forward to heaven. If you take those three concepts, what incentive or motivation does a person with those three basic sentiments that are their underlying psycho-emotional makeup, what incentive do they have to try to make this world a better place? Brian, answer that.
Probably the Ten Commandments.
What?
The 10 Commandments are probably what motivate them to stay on the straight and narrow.
No, you missed the question. We talked about this the other day and you agreed with me, so maybe you didn't hear it over the phone or something. I said those three concepts, right, of this is the devil's world and Jesus is coming back and I'm waiting on the Lord and, lay not your treasure on earth but in heaven. Somebody with that basic those tenets in their mind, what incentive or motivation are they really going to have to try to make this world a better place?
That's pretty simple.
Brian? How much motivation and incentive is that person really going to have to try to make this world a better place?
Just the human condition, maybe, that just being a human, they want to do better. But there's not really any motivation there.
Right, there's not much motivation there to make this world a better place. Sure, they might be concerned about themselves. In fact, my mom, who currently is very much a church-going Christian, when I proposed that to her, that's pretty much the answer she gave. Well, I can't be worrying about everybody else. I'm worried about me. I just got to read my Bible and get in my church pew and do my thing. I can only be worried about me. And you know what I told her? That's fine, Mom, and not everybody's called to be a Martin Luther King, right? Because there is kind of a corner you can put a Christian in when you put them in that, because they'll say like, well, you don't have to worry about the world and don't worry about everybody else. And then you throw them the Martin Luther King scenario and then they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Because if Martin Luther King said, well, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not really my concern. The Lord will take care of it. Then blacks would still be sitting in the back of the bus. You follow me? In other words, there are some people that need to step up to the plate and take charge to make things right. Now, not everybody's cut out to do that, but again, my point is simply that in general, That's how I feel about Christianity. I visualize, because I've been there too, all these people being in their church pews every Sunday or Sabbath on Saturday or whatever it might be, waiting on the Lord and believing that this is the devil's world. So they really don't have a whole hell of a lot of incentive or motivation to try to do anything to change this world and make it a better place. But I say human beings are responsible for everything that goes on in this world, not the devil. There's no the devil made me do it. No, I'm responsible. So it's called human responsibility. If I'm going to take personal human responsibility, and I'm going to expect that all humans should take personal human responsibility, then therefore the equation says humans are responsible for everything that goes on this planet. And therefore humans need to take the bull by the horns, and humans need to right the ship. Because it's clearly humans that are fucking the world up. It's clearly humans that this doctor is referring to that are a bunch of corrupt, sick bastards in Washington. So when are the righteous going to take the reign?
And one of the people that is taking responsibility is Dr. Shiva. So let's hear what else he has to say.
All right, let's hear more on Shiva here.
So, this is what we have. We have viruses do not harm or kill us. It is the overreaction of the weakened and dysfunctional immune system to the virus that results in your own body attacking itself. And we're going to go through this. And such a dysfunctional immune system is a result of underlying pre-existing conditions, which here are some of them. Now, these are brought on by a variety of things. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper. And again, I want to take this slow because the politicians are not going to teach you this because they're basically incompetent. They don't know stuff. And in fact, your academics and your medical professionals don't want to teach you this because either they didn't learn it or they want to just get you on hype and reaction on drugs and vaccines. That's the only thing that they know because that's how they make money. They don't give a damn, I keep repeating, about real immune health. So let's go here and start talking about what we need to do to build this up. So what happens when you age? Why is it in this situation that the people who are dying are people 50 plus and older? Well, first of all, as you age, your thyroid level goes down, okay? As you age, your thyroid level goes down. And now I'm going to talk about something interesting, vitamin A production. So your vitamin A production goes down because when your thyroid is not functioning right, your body is not able to take carotenoids that you eat and convert them into vitamin A. And we're going to learn very soon, as my friend Dr. Robbie Mitchell says, vitamin A is like a deadbolt which protects your cell walls, okay? It's like building a wall so other invaders don't come in, okay? So vitamin A is critical to this. But as you age, your thyroid level goes down and you minimize vitamin A production. Now, why is that important? Because vitamin A, when that goes down, you get less cytokeratins. And I'm going to show you a very nice one image on this. The cytokeratins are the things that create the wall around your cells to really protect you. So these two bullets you need to take away. The second thing we need to understand is that as you age, your hydrochloric acid goes down, HCl. Acid level goes down. What does that mean? You lower your gut acidophilus. Remember, philus, is likes from the Greek and Latin. I think it's Latin. I may be making an error there, but it's a thing that likes acid. So your gut bacteria, which like acid, when the acid levels go down, what happens at this point is that your microbiome goes into dysfunction. So as you age, thyroid level goes down, you produce less vitamin A if you don't address it properly, and your acid levels goes down. When acid level goes down, your microbiome gets affected. So again, if you think about your throat and your gut, these two things, as you age, are getting affected, and you go into what's called, you become immunocompromised, okay? Your immune system gets weakened, and it doesn't act the way it should in that all those systems coming together in the proper way, your innate immune system, your IFN, and your adaptive, etc., balancing itself. So this is why, as you age, it's very important you focus on diet, and we'll come back to this. The other thing a number of people have been rightfully asking is, if you eat a high sugar diet, and which, by the way, just as an aside, what I want to share with you is one of the initiatives that I've done to help the public is I created a whole new certification, and you can see it at Whole Foods and Walmart. It's called Clean Food Certified. It's a thing that I did through my research institute to help the industry to really identify what is good, clean food. It involves foods that are non-GMO, organic, high bioavailability. It's a very complex systems approach. I did it as a labor of love to help the industry. And I was speaking to a potential partner who wanted to get her jam certified. She's a woman who produces amazing organic jams down in Texas. And she told me, Shiva, did you know that the FDA will not allow, and listen to this carefully, something to be branded as a jam or a jelly unless it has 40% sugar? Okay? So the sugar industry has manipulated the branding of jams and jellies, which is your kids eat when they put it on there, that it has to have a high amount of sugar, otherwise you can't sell it. Okay? And I don't hear the Center for Disease Control talking about this. I don't hear Anthony Fauci talking about this, the head of the NIH. But I hear a woman who's an entrepreneur who cares about producing great products in Texas, who educated an MIT PhD about this. It is us who are going to solve health. It is not the government, because they don't give a damn about your health. They profit from ill health. They profit from sickness. So the bottom line is, we are filled in a world where it's really easy to get a lot of sugar. So what happens when you have a high sugar diet? Well, when you have a high sugar diet, candida grows. Okay, it's a whole nother set of organisms that start growing. And when candida growth occurs, gliotoxins increase. And these toxins destroy your macrophages and T cells. So let me explain that. What this happens is, you take in sugar, which is what it seems like the government wants you to eat, a lot of sugar. And when you eat a lot of sugar, which is like a drug, your body will create candida will start growing, and your body will make gliotoxins. By the way, this is not anything controversial. This is not woo-woo stuff. There's thousands of papers written on this. We can go down to the molecular mechanisms. Anyone who wants to challenge this, please call me up. My number is 617-631-6874, and we can have a discussion. We'll do.
Let's grab that real quick. Mama, dame un bolígrafo, Mama.
I knew you'd write that down. That'll be a good show.
Absolutely. Let's back that up. 30:05, 30.
Molecular mechanisms. Anyone who wants to challenge this, please call me up. My number is 617-631-6874, and we can have a discussion. We'll do a live on it. Okay? So those gliotoxins increase, and what happens when that happens? Well, look what happens. You know, as my notes here share, you start destroying your macrophages and your T cells. Well, why are they important? Well, you know what? They're right over here. They're in your innate immune system, and they're in your adaptive immune system. Okay? So you're basically destroying the soldiers and the sharpshooters in your own immune system. You're destroying your Marines, and you're destroying your sharpshooters. That's what sugar does. That's what these gliotoxins do. Okay? And